Hey guys, it's Courtney from Lil's Bloom, and I am here with a different kind of video today where we're going to talk about kind of like astrology, psychology, life purpose, career, business, and I'm going to mix all of those things together. So, this is going to be a new series that I'm doing each week along with my forecast. So, I'm very excited to help you guys better understand yourselves and why you are here on this earth. And that's a huge part of my mission is to help everyone live out their own unique gifts so that we can basically all be lit up in our most pure and essential form. And that's actually what I wanted to talk about today. What makes me special? What is my essence? And astrology has such a gift for teaching us what this essence is. And the unfortunate thing about our essence is that it is so close to us and so personal that we often don't actually recognize that it's special or unique. And so another title for this video is What Makes Me Special? And oftentimes it's just something that comes so naturally that we are so gifted at, or that has come as a result of our life story, but it has been so ingrained in who we are and in our chart, which I see all the time with my clients, that we don't look at it and recognize it as something unique. It's like when we look in the mirror and we're used to seeing our hair every single day, we don't notice that it's grown from one week to the next week to the next week. And sometimes we don't see how we have grown or unique and beautiful qualities that we have that actually other people have to work for. And so I wanted to discuss this today and look at specific examples in people's charts, how you can find this for yourself. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about my personal story because this has come up for me really recently. So I have recently begun coaching with astrology, which is kind of like a normal reading, but actually implementing the change that we need to transform somebody's life. So if you're interested in that, I am currently accepting 4 coaching clients. You can message me down below or at my website if you're interested. And one of the things that I've noticed is that people were coming to me because they said that they liked my truthfulness and my authenticity. And what I started to realize was, oh, this is not something that might come as easily to everyone else, especially in the spiritual field when so many people have fear around going out into the world and being a psychic or a medium or doing something with tarot or plant medicine. These things that are kind of still new age or a little bit more on the side or the fringe of society, people are scared to come out and show these parts of themselves and make a business and a life out of it because they're scared of criticism. And I'm going to make other videos about this because I do think that we have kind of been subject to witch trials and things in past lives that have carried forward with us in our DNA. But they're scared of that criticism. They're scared of hatred. They're scared of being misunderstood, exiled, judged, abandoned, and so on and so forth. And what I realized was, of course, while I don't want to be judged and I don't want to be hated, there is definitely part of me that can't help but be myself regardless of the consequences of that. And this has come up time and time in my life, and it appears not only in my personality but in my story. And this is what we're going to see here with the essence, is these things really go hand in hand, that it's part of our personality, I think, first, and it becomes woven into our story through our astrology. And so we see that personality trait almost get strengthened through these certain experiences, and it becomes more and more clear to other people that that's our personality trait, but somehow we still don't always see it. And so while I knew I was an authentic person, I didn't realize that the sense of inner freedom I have to be myself without the feeling of needing to, I guess, filter myself or be something else to not be judged, and also to just break traditions, break norms, and kind of go against the existing status quo, move towards change constantly, and be desiring of new rather than the stagnant and the old. I knew that was part of my personality, but I didn't really realize that that was one of my unique essence pieces that others are attracted to. And the reason why this is important is because your essence is what is going to define your life story and make you stand out from the crowd. So if you are interested, for example, in attracting unique types of people to you, or if you're starting a business and you want clients to be attracted to you, or you want a partner, this is the part of you that you can lean into more and actually sometimes capitalize on by helping teach others about that part of themselves, helping them open up and access that part of themselves. And it's something, again, that comes very innately to us. And so it should be something that you might even have to think about, well, how do I translate this for somebody where this isn't necessarily innate to them? But it's very, very important in order to understand our purpose, because we are born this particular way in order to inspire other people. And I've seen this with myself and the clients that have come to me and said, oh, I'm inspired by this about you. I never thought about it, right? I'm just being me. You're just being you. These are things that you're probably never going to think about until you sit down more consciously and think about, what do people always compliment me on? What do my family and friends say that they love about me, or they're inspired on about me? Inspired on? I don't know. And so these are going to be the things that other people draw your attention to. And it's also going to be very critical for your purpose in this lifetime, because you being in your essence is what is going to change and mold the people around you. Even if you're not a business owner or going into a specific career with this at the forefront, your family, your friends, your community, the people that you even meet in public or on the street, they could be impacted by even just a brief moment of talking to you where you are embodying your essence and where they may be lacking that or struggling with that in some capacity. And we all have each other's strengths and weaknesses. So we're here to fortify the people around us. And as a light worker, or as somebody here with, spiritual purpose, one of the greatest things that we can do is just live 100% in our essence to inspire others to do the same. So what do you look for in an astrology chart in order to understand some of the key aspects of your essence? Well, you can really look at the entire chart. I mean, that's why we offer readings, because there's so much that you can gather. But when it comes to the things that really stand out in terms of your personality, the things that are most visible or tend to have the highest impact, I look at 4 key areas of the chart. The first is the sun. So we want to look at, sure, yes, you can look at the sign it's in and the house it's in, and that's going to have something to do with your personality. But we also really want to tie in aspects to the sun. And this is what is going to start to define your life story. So yes, you have a certain personality, like I'm a Gemini in the 9th house. I like to travel, I like to learn. That's a really key aspect of my personality. But what other aspects are going on to my sun is going to show maybe where I've had certain support or trials and tribulations, and how my personality has acted in those situations will start to draw out the most powerful essence pieces in your life, your most unique gifts. And so that's one of them, aspects to the sun. The other one is aspects to the moon. So yes, again, your moon sign, your moon house, but really the aspects, again, are going to start to draw in how you respond to certain life circumstances that are unique to you. So lots of people might have their moon in Capricorn or their moon in the 4th house, but not a lot of people are going to have their moon in Capricorn in the 4th house, conjunct Uranus and Neptune, squaring Venus in the 8th. Once you start pulling in those elements, you start to see the richness of these unique gifts. And we're going to go over examples in a second. So if you're like, what the heck is she talking about? Don't worry. I mean, you do need to know a little bit of astrology for this, so I'm not going to say that you don't, but I am going to go over examples so you'll have the visual and you'll get more of an idea of what I'm talking about. The next one, the third one, is your ascendant sign. So this would be for me, a Virgo rising, but not just a sign. What planets are sitting on the ascendant or making a strong aspect to the ascendant? So for example, if I have like Ariana Grande, she has her Uranus-Neptune conjunction right smack dab on the ascendant. So this is going to really strongly influence how other people perceive her, because that's really what the ascendant does in astrology. It's kind of the face that we put on for the world. And the sun is a lot about our life purpose and our actualization, and the moon is our emotional nature. But in order to further add context to the ascendant and how people perceive us, is not only to look at the planets strongly aspecting it, but to also look at the planet that rules the ascendant, which for me would be Mercury, and the aspects that are happening to that particular planet. So this again is going to show a lot about your personality and the way that you tend to come across and your natural innate inclination and focus. So where does your energy tend to gravitate towards? Like my sun in the ninth, I tend to gravitate towards traveling and learning. But my Mercury, which is my ascendant ruler, is in the 10th house. So I tend to really be obsessive about career, and I love business, and that's why a lot of my channel is about purpose. But it's also aspecting with a square Jupiter in Libra. So there's a very strong emphasis on relationships as well. And so you can see these aspects of my personality come out very, very strongly once you get to know me, the things that I learn about, the things that I study. So just to repeat those before we go over the examples, we're looking at the aspects to the sun, the aspects to the moon, planets strongly aspecting the ascendant, and the ascendant ruler and its aspects. So just to cover very briefly what all of the rulers are for each of the ascendant signs. So if you have an Aries rising, Mars will be your planetary ruler, so your ascendant ruler. If you have Taurus, it's going to be Venus. If you have Gemini, it's going to be Mercury. If you have Cancer, it's going to be the moon. If you have Leo, it's going to be the sun. If you have Virgo, it's going to be Mercury. If you have if you have Libra, it's going to be Venus. If you have Scorpio, it's going to be Pluto or Mars, depending on if you use traditional or modern astrology. If you have Sagittarius, it's going to be Jupiter. If you have Capricorn, it's going to be Saturn. If you have Aquarius, it's going to be Uranus or Saturn. And if you have Pisces, it's going to be Neptune or Jupiter. So you guys can decide for yourselves if you want to use modern or traditional astrology. If you don't even know what I'm talking about, definitely check out Lords and Rulers. I think that's what it's called. And I will link that video down below so that you guys have further explanation, because that is like one of the most important parts of astrology. If you don't already practice, the planets that rule signs, that is going to strongly impact your practice. So let's go ahead and jump into some examples now, and then we'll finish up. All right, so the first person that we have here is Reese Witherspoon. And to be honest, I did not know a lot about Reese at all, but I did want to pull up her chart and start looking at it. And I realized that she has her sun in a very strong square with Mars. You can see that 1 degree, 2 degrees. And if you look at the grid, you can see sun square Mars here. So not only that, but her moon is also opposite Mars. So we can see that she's having this interesting T-square happening with her sun and moon and Mars. So we can see that this is going to be a very important part of her personality and her life story, because, as I mentioned, aspects to the sun and aspects to the moon are very prominent parts of our essence. So when I see a square and an opposition, I can see that the part of this essence that comes out for her has come through a struggle, especially because it's Mars. Mars and Saturn are challenging planets. And when we have hard aspects like a square and opposition with Mars or Saturn, we're going to have some kind of life struggle that forces us to step more into some different aspects of our personality. Or, of course, we could go the other direction and kind of not overcome it and suffer. And anyway, so we can obviously see that Reese has very much overcome these circumstances. But one of the things I think about when I think of Mars is opposing forces, is somebody who is contrarian, somebody who is pushing against you. And when it comes to the sun in particular, this has a lot to do with our identity. And so there's something about us and our life purpose and our identity that is being pushed back on. It's almost like others are refusing to see our own power or refusing to see our strength and are kind of fighting us in some aspect. And this is very common in abuse. Mars is a very violent and aggressive planet. And especially when we look at the moon as well, which has to do with our emotional nature, our experience of our childhood, it might even be something that carries over to her story as a young child. Was she abused, or was she not accepted for who she was? Was there somebody aggressive in her household or in her life at that time? And I looked that up after seeing this, and there was. She actually experienced some pretty significant abuse when she was working as a child actor. And so one of the elements of her essence that's very strong for her is actually going to be her will and her drive and her capacity to overcome. And so one of the things that Mars tends to do is it tends to be very business oriented. So it's almost like the people who pushed against her, who made her, I guess, the weaker one in a situation, or who took advantage of her or abused her, this later on acts as fuel for her ability to go out into the world and make her own way, take her own power back and say, I'm going to lead, I'm going to be the authority, I'm going to be the business owner, so that I'm not in this weaker position, so that I'm not the one being pushed around or taken advantage of or told what to do. I'm now going to become empowered to do the right thing here, and or to do the thing that's right for me, I should say. And so we can see that she has gone on to start her own production company, and she has made tons and tons of amazing films, and she directly accesses books from the authors and puts them on her book club, and gets it really popular and then makes it into a movie. So she's created almost like this insular experience where she now no longer really needs or relies on someone. Instead, she has people that are maybe beneath her in some respects who are relying on her to make this vision come to life. And so we can see how this story of abuse or being pushed and not accepted and taken advantage of in some ways has turned her into a more powerful person that now knows how to kind of handle this strong and intense energy of Mars in her life. She has now wielded it like a sword instead of the sword being used against her. So that is a very kind of story way to put it, but you could summarize this as saying that she is very ambitious, very energized, driven, assertive, and that comes as a result of her being put in situations where maybe that wasn't necessarily respected. And this was always part of her personality. This is always part of her essence. But again, these same aspects that show the essence also show the life plot line and what we're going to experience that will challenge that essence, that will grow and strengthen that essence. And we can see that here with her and the abuse that she experienced as a child. All right, let's look at somebody else. Let's look at another example of Mars. So we can see here, Megan Fox has a very strong Mars on her ascendant. So both are 19 degrees of Capricorn. So I mentioned planets conjunct the ascendant are going to be very important for our personality. So she definitely has a little bit of this kind of nature, and Mars is a little bit affronting, is a little bit aggressive. And we can see that in her life story because, first of all, let me draw back a little bit and say that Mars is also a sexual planet. And so one of the things that people see with Megan Fox is that she is highly sexualized. She is highly desired. And we can see that really play out in her movie roles and the kind of things that she wears in her personality. And it's also just part of her nature in general. So she's really feeding into this kind of sexual stereotype or trope. But also she's embodying the other elements of Mars as well. So one of her pieces of essence is that she is maybe very sexual or kind of lights up a room and has that energy about her that interests people. So she definitely has that. But Mars, besides that, also has this element of being a little bit aggressive. It tends to kind of push people away or create conflict, but also take up a lot of space and tend to lead and be assertive, as I was mentioning before. And so when Mars is on the ascendant, it becomes very, very prominent in the personality that you are going to likely encounter people who push back on you. And we can see that with Megan Fox when she got when she wasn't recast in one of the Transformer movies, and she kind of fell off the face of the earth for a second there from Hollywood. And she was really outcast for saying some things about the director, even though they were, I think, true at the time. And you can see how she stands up for herself and she speaks her mind in a somewhat aggressive way, and the world really reacts towards that aggression. And so this is a huge part of her life story, is in a different way than Reese Witherspoon, where she was abused. And I'm not saying Megan wasn't, but just that there was something here where she is acting in an affronting way because this is meshing with her personality. It's not just something she's discovering outside of herself. It's actually something that she's innately putting out there, and it's coming back at her as well. And there's a whole storyline and plot line around her strength and resilience, and I don't give an F kind of BS detector and all of that really is strong with a Mars on the ascendant individual. And so we can see that this is a very huge part of her essence. And if she were leading a group of people, she might be leading women on how to not give a fuck, or how to embody their sexuality and not care if people are judging you or pushing you to the side as a result of some of the things that you say or do. It has kind of this boss bitch energy, especially being in the sign of Capricorn, where Mars is very, very strong and where there's a sense of discipline and hard work. She's really kind of embodying that boss bitch, which I really love about her. So very strong essence there. And let's look at something totally different. Let's look at Princess Diana. This is her chart here. Let me just put this in whole sign. Whenever somebody has an intercepted sign, I put it in whole sign. If you don't know what I mean by that, I might do a video about that later if I haven't already. Okay, so Princess Diana, very well loved. You know, everyone really adored her. And when we see something like that, we're probably going to be looking at something to do with Venus and with Neptune, because there tends to be an idolization of individuals who have strong aspects from these planets. So we were going to look at the sun, we're going to look at the moon, the ascendant, and see if she has aspects with these planets. And we can definitely see that here. So first of all, she has this strong trine between Neptune and her sun. They're only 1 degree apart. And so the fantasy or idealization around her is very strong, because the sun when a trine to Neptune shows that she's very gentle, she's very intuitive, she's empathic, she cares about others, but she's also receiving projections from the outside world onto her. Neptune is a planet of projection. And so part of her essence is almost having this like fairy tale energy about her. Not only does she approach the world like that and show that love, but that's how the world will tend to see her, through these kind of rose-colored glasses. They will definitely see the beautiful parts about her and talk about the beautiful parts about her when they remember her. And we can definitely see that, especially with her sun in the 8th house of death. We can see that she had a really memorable death that was remembered in this kind of martyrdom way of you know, she was such a good person and look what happened to her. And so that is part of her essence here, is how she is looked upon or remembered by the public, as well as her innate ability to tap into the love and connection and feeling that she has for other people. And Neptune does tend to do that. It tends to give us this ability to have universal love, unconditional love, the kind that is very classic for highly sensitive people who care a lot about other people's feelings and are empaths. That's very much predominant in Princess Diana. And she also has the element of wanting to help the underdog. Neptune in the 12th tends to want to do that. And we can see that being a strong part of her personality, her essence as well, is that she's almost here like a spiritual guru for people, to really help the people who were not given the things that they needed, and in some ways to rewrite the story of the monarchy. Okay, we really see that with Uranus on the North Node, but we're not going to get super into that. All right, and then the last one I wanted to look at was Rihanna. So Rihanna, as we all know, has a very famous business called Fenty Beauty, and she makes a ton of money. And she's definitely, first of all, known for being very beautiful. And we can look on the ascendant. She has her moon and Venus on the ascendant. So definitely 2 planets associated with femininity, with beauty, but it's in the sign of Aries. So there's something very forward, entrepreneurial, assertive, aggressive, affronting about her, while also being very soft and feminine and welcoming, and all of those things mixed together. So we can see that as part of her essence is very strong here. And she tends to attract through magnetism, attract through art, attract through her way of kind of knowing how to work with people. And even though how to work with people, but how to get people to come kind of do what you want, because this is Aries. So it's like, I'm the dominant one. I'm the one taking the lead, but I'm doing so in a way with Venus and the moon that is going to be magnetic and kind of pulling you in and attracting you towards something. So she has this really beautiful blend of essence where she might, if she were teaching this as a business, talk about how do you blend the masculine with the feminine in order to attract what you want, but also be assertive and dominant. This kind of has like BDSM kind of vibes where you're super feminine, but you're the one in control. So she really, I feel like, represents some of that in her nature and in her essence and in the way that people perceive her. So she could capitalize on that in some respects. If other people were struggling and they were maybe too passive or they're maybe too assertive, how do we balance? She knows how to balance them. She also has her ascendant. Wait, let me see something. Sorry, she also has her sun making an exact sextile to Saturn and Uranus here. So what are these planets representative of? Well, what's really interesting is Saturn and Uranus both have to do with societal level things. And Saturn in particular is about, here's our tradition, here's our business, here's our structure. Let's go on and move forward in life and create something. But Uranus is like, let's disrupt that structure. Actually, that thing isn't working anymore. And we've seen a lot of this throughout last year, 2021, when we had Saturn making a square to Uranus. Many of us wanted to go out into the world, but there was still stuff going on with COVID. So it's like this weird blend of going back into the old, staying stuck, or being in traditional ways of doing things versus needing to start something new. So she, in some ways, is here to revolutionize existing structures, especially belief systems by being in the ninth house, institutions, those are all very ninth house matters. So she's here in some ways maybe to revolutionize the fashion industry or the fashion institution or the beauty industry, beauty institution. So she's not only here playing the traditional game, but while she's playing that game, she's completely changing it up. And so this is another strong aspect of her essence, that she is actually here as a purpose to imprint upon the world. How do we play within the existing structures and yet also kind of blow them up in some ways, or completely make them a progressive thing that focuses on different types of body or different types of beauty that really needed that focus? That really was, it was a time for that in society and in the world. So we can see that this is a huge part of her purpose. And when you start to look at this for yourself, you can see, okay, this is actually why I'm here. Even if it's like a broad stroke of what that is, you can fit many different careers and lifelines within that purpose and still achieve that. You know, it doesn't have to be the beauty industry for her, but it does happen to be that because Venus on her ascendant has to do with beauty, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, this essence can come across in many different facets of her life. And if I knew more about her childhood, then I could see maybe where she was a little bit of a revolutionary or rebellious in her childhood as well. I seriously would believe that without knowing much about her history. So you can start to see again your essence and how during your childhood these aspects of your essence were groomed in some capacity, either through resistance and things kind of hurting you, or by facilitating that and making it more and more known. So go ahead and comment below what planets are involved in your essence, or if you are able to interpret this for yourself, if you are able to pull up your chart and kind of guess at what it is. What do you think is your essence and your life story that shows that this is part of your purpose here in the world? So I would love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for staying tuned. And again, if you guys want to receive coaching from me to understand more about your essence and how to step into it and overcome blockages, definitely check out my website, willisboom.com, where I will offer that, or you can reach me at contact@willisboom.com. I'm only accepting 4 clients, so once they're filled, it will be totally full. Obviously, I won't accept more. So if you're interested, definitely act now, and I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Bye.